Picture this: the last rays of sunlight glinting off the golden domes of Hagia Sophia on May 28, 1453, as Emperor Constantine XI Palaiologos stands atop the mighty Theodosian walls, knowing that tomorrow's dawn would either witness a miracle or mark the end of an empire that had endured for over 1,000 years. For 53 days, the greatest city in the medieval world, Constantinople, the jewel of the Eastern Roman Empire, heir to Caesar's legacy and guardian of Christian orthodoxy, has withstood the relentless siege of Sultan Mehmed II, a 21-year-old Ottoman ruler whose burning ambition has earned him the nickname the Conqueror, even before this ultimate test. The stakes could not be higher: the survival of Byzantium, the last flickering flame of the Roman Empire that once ruled the known world, against the rising sun of Ottoman power that already controlled vast swaths of Anatolia and the Balkans, threatening to close the final chapter of medieval Christianity in the East. Leading the desperate defense were Constantine XI himself, the last Byzantine emperor, a man who had inherited a throne with barely enough territory to call an empire, alongside the brilliant Genoese condottiero Giovanni Giustiniani, whose expertise in siege warfare represented the city's greatest hope, and Cardinal Isidore, whose presence symbolized the controversial union between Eastern and Western Christianity that many Byzantines viewed as a betrayal of their Orthodox faith. Arrayed against them stood not just Mehmed II, a strategic genius who had spent years planning this assault, but also the legendary Hungarian engineer Orban, whose massive bronze cannons would revolutionize siege warfare forever. Halil Pasha, the experienced Ottoman Grand Vizier, who managed the enormous logistical challenge of maintaining a siege army, and Zaganos Pasha, the fanatical convert, who commanded the elite Janissary Corps that formed the backbone of Ottoman military might. The numbers tell a stark story of desperation versus overwhelming force. Approximately 7,000 to 10,000 Byzantine defenders, including Greek citizens, Genoese volunteers, and a handful of foreign mercenaries, facing an Ottoman army estimated at between 80,000 to 150,000 men, supported by the largest artillery train ever assembled and a naval fleet that had already achieved the impossible by being dragged overland into the Golden Horn, bypassing the great chain that had protected Constantinople's harbor for centuries. The city's defenses seemed formidable at first glance. The legendary Theodosian walls had protected Constantinople for over 1,000 years, repelling Huns, Avars, Arabs, Bulgars, and countless other enemies, while the city's position on a peninsula surrounded by water on 3 sides made a complete blockade traditionally impossible. But Mehmed's revolutionary approach would challenge every assumption about medieval siege warfare. As April turned to May in 1453, the Ottoman preparations revealed the calculated precision of a new kind of warfare. Orban's great cannon, the Basilica, stretched nearly 27 feet in length and could hurl stone balls weighing over 600 pounds against walls that had never faced such devastating firepower, while smaller cannons, positioned along the entire length of the land walls, kept up a constant bombardment that slowly but inexorably cracked the ancient masonry. The psychological warfare was equally intense. Mehmed offered the city terms that would have spared the population and preserved Byzantine autonomy as an Ottoman vassal. But Constantine XI, knowing that acceptance meant the effective end of his empire, chose to fight rather than surrender the city his ancestors had ruled for over a millennium, declaring that he would rather die as emperor than live as a puppet. The siege's most dramatic moment came when Mehmed achieved the impossible by transporting his fleet overland, hauling 70 ships across the hills of Pera using greased logs and thousands of workers, a feat that outflanked the massive chain barrier and brought Ottoman cannons within range of the sea walls, traditionally the weakest part of Constantinople's defenses, because they had never needed to withstand a serious assault. As May progressed, the daily reality became increasingly desperate for the defenders. Food supplies dwindled, while Ottoman bombardment continued day and night, creating ever-widening breaches in walls that Byzantine engineers struggled desperately to repair, using whatever materials they could find, including tombstones from ancient cemeteries and rubble from collapsed buildings.
The final assault began before dawn on May 29, 1453, with a coordinated attack along the entire length of the land walls that demonstrated Ottoman military organization at its finest. Waves of irregular troops, followed by provincial soldiers, and finally the elite janissaries, each wave designed to exhaust the defenders and create the openings that the next wave could exploit. At the Kerka Porta, a small gate in the outer wall that some defenders had apparently left unlocked during the chaos of battle, a group of Ottoman soldiers found their way inside, creating panic and confusion that spread along the walls as defenders found enemies both outside and behind them. The moment that sealed Constantinople's fate came when Giovanni Giustiniani, the brilliant Genoese commander whose tactical expertise had kept the defense alive far longer than anyone thought possible, was wounded by a crossbow bolt or early firearm and was carried from the walls, causing a collapse of morale among his men just as the Janissaries launched their final, decisive assault. Emperor Constantine XI, seeing his city's defenses crumbling and his empire's end inevitable, made the choice that would immortalize his name in history. Stripping off his imperial regalia to die as a simple soldier rather than flee, he charged into the Ottoman ranks at the Romanos Gate and was never seen alive again, his body lost among the thousands of dead that littered the walls. The immediate aftermath was both terrible and transformative. For 3 days, Mehmed allowed his soldiers the traditional right to plunder, leading to scenes of destruction and tragedy as one of the world's greatest cities was sacked. Yet the young Sultan also moved quickly to establish order and begin the transformation of Constantinople into the capital of a new Islamic empire. The human cost was staggering. Thousands of Byzantine civilians were killed or enslaved. The last emperor died defending his capital, and centuries of accumulated Greek manuscripts, art, and cultural treasures were destroyed or scattered, marking the end of a continuous link to the classical world that stretched back to ancient Rome itself. Yet Mehmed's victory accomplished far more than conquest. By capturing Constantinople, he secured Ottoman control of the Bosporus, the vital waterway connecting Europe and Asia, Black Sea and Mediterranean, making the Ottomans the undisputed masters of Eastern Mediterranean trade and positioning them to threaten both Vienna and Venice in the decades to come. The technological revolution demonstrated at Constantinople's walls, where traditional medieval fortifications proved helpless against modern artillery, marked the beginning of a new age in military engineering that would transform siege warfare across Europe and beyond, making this battle as significant for military history as it was for political geography. The fall of Constantinople sent shockwaves across Christian Europe, inspiring calls for new crusades that never materialized, while simultaneously opening new chapters in Ottoman expansion that would bring Islamic armies to the gates of Vienna and Ottoman fleets to the shores of Italy within a generation. More profoundly, the city's fall marked the definitive end of the medieval world and the beginning of the early modern period, as the last remnant of the Roman Empire finally disappeared after more than 2,000 years, while the rise of Ottoman power created a new balance that would dominate Eastern European and Middle Eastern politics for the next 4 centuries. Today, visitors to Istanbul can still walk along portions of the Theodosian walls and see the cannonballs embedded in ancient stones, silent witnesses to those 53 days when a 21-year-old sultan's ambition collided with a dying emperor's courage, reminding us that some moments in history are so pivotal they literally divide one age from another, marking the end of Byzantium and the birth of the modern Ottoman Empire that would shape the destiny of 3 continents for generations to come.